Good afternoon, all. With the aim of providing and showcasing the information about our valuable and premium brands which are creating value in market, we welcome you to the 12th edition of Business Opportunity Over Chai. This is the webinar which we are organizing every day and presenting you a few of the brands which Franchise India is associated with. We welcome our panelists, Chairman Franchise India Group, Gaurav Sir, and our MD, Sonia Ma'am, for this particular webinar. With this introduction, we welcome our brand of the day, Cut and Style. We have Dinesh Sir and Rajesh Sir along with Aditya from Cut and Style. Cut and Style, a brand operating with 90 plus saloon, present in 15 cities, overall experience of 20 years, and catering 6 lakhs client. That's the parameter, that's the strength of this particular brand. With this introduction, I would like to invite Dinesh Sir and Rajesh Sir to talk about Cut and Style. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Archana, for having us. It's a pleasure to be, a part of this discussion and to discuss the business opportunities with all the attendees out here. My name is Aditya Sharma, and I'm the CEO at Cut and Style Salons. So let me just give you a brief about, who we are, what we do. The journey dates back to, 20 years back to 2000, when our founders, Mr. Dinesh Sharma and Rajesh Yadav, they discovered the need of high-end beauty and wellness services at affordable prices. So Cut and Style was founded in February 2000 as a 4-seater men's salon and based out of Gurgaon. And ever since, the idea evolved with the great customer relationship, dedication, passion of the directors, and there's no looking back ever since then. In these past 20 years, if you talk about, we've grown from, in these past 20 years, we've expanded to 15 cities, pan India, and we proudly say that we have, 90 flagship stores all across India. And with a strong customer relationship with 6 lakh plus happy customers. So that's a strength that we count upon. And we've grown all together with the relationships that we've made with our clients. About Cut and Style, if you talk about the brand, we are a franchise supportive brand. Like we believe that our success lies in the growth of the franchisees and their success as well. And that's the reason that, within these past 20 years, we've become the fastest growing salon chain in North India, and been awarded, awards as the most exciting opportunities also in the beauty industry. As a support, we provide, we provide support right from the beginning of our relationship with the franchise partners as soon as they come up. And in terms of support, if I talk about, it involves from your site selection to your recruitments and trainings and the marketing support, the legal support, product sourcing at the best discounts, like everything. Ever since you become a part of the Cut and Style family, it's a hand in hand process that we go ahead in the setting up of your store. If I just run through the presentation. Yeah. So in these, and I'll talk about the setting up of the store, like what are the basic requirements of setting up a Cut and Style outlet. So for the area requirements, we usually target at 800 to 1200 square feet area. The ideal would be 1000 square feet. The total investment of the entire setup is close to somewhere around 45 to 50 lakh rupees, and that includes your franchise fees of a one-time franchise fees, that is 7 lakh rupees. And for the monthly retainer, the brand charges a nominal amount of 25,000 rupees for the first 6 months, and then there are sales slash brackets that the monthly royalty is being calculated upon. If you talk about the salon industry in total, I think it's a $5 billion industry that's growing, and at a very fast rate. And I think if you talk about the business model of salons in particular, I think it is something that's a necessity. It's not something that that's a luxury. I think people would want to get their haircut, even if you talk about in the current pandemic situation. I think even just after having food to eat, I think the next thing people want is getting a fresh haircut after the lockdown is lifted. I think that clearly states about the requirement of the our, I think hygiene and grooming is something that everyone would want at every stage of their life. So this is something, this is the industry that I think has no effect of, be it recession, be it anything. This is something that will always be the need of the hour. As a setup, if you talk about getting into a business model of a salon business model, I think there is no business experience required as such. All if you partner with a brand, I think there's a lot of support that is provided, and there is no experience in terms of your personal background which is required there. The experience comes in from the brand, hand in hand, wherein there is support from the brand from every at every step that you take in the journey. I think the business model is also very easy to operate. If you talk about it, there is in terms of the requirement also, I think this is something that you don't have to do it yourself. It's something that you have to there's a managerial skill that's required in a setup of a salon, and the rest is taken care of by the hairdressers and the technicians. As an onboarding process, if you talk about your journey with Cut and Style, when you come up as a franchise partner, so as a support that is provided from the brand, I think that is something that will never let you feel alone at any point of time. Right in from where you come in till the time of the setup of the store, I think everything is being taken care by the brand. I think you will never have that feeling that you're stuck somewhere. I think we proudly say that in terms of our backend team, we have our IT sector that is strong enough. We have our area managers that are that take care of a particular area, and into the operations. We are core dived into the operations, and we have a phenomenal marketing team as well. So which takes care of your all the marketing collaterals and everything that's a part of it. So that's what in terms of the support that the brand provides. If you talk about the entire setup, I think if we want to break down the entire the cost of the entire setup of the store, so I think that's close to around 45 lakh rupees, and which includes your agreements and your furniture, your architect fees, your equipments, your interiors, your infrastructure. Everything is being taken care in that price bracket. As a brand owner, we feel that it's not just the numbers that count as a brand, but it's also about the success of the franchise partner that takes us to a next step. And that's where we believe that the brand is, the support provided by the brand is of utmost importance. That's what we take care of. And never in the process, I think the brand is hand in hand with the person who's partnering with the brand. I think we've touched close to 90 outlets now. We have 20 years of good brand experience, and it's not just a brand. It's like two people coming in, a brand coming in, and a lot of experience that comes in with the partnership. We have pan India presence now. Gurgaon, North India is our strongest coverage, but still we are expanding pan India. And the customer base that we've captured till now, it's good in numbers. Ashna, I think that's about it. If there's I think we can go ahead with the question answers.
Thank you, Aditya. Thanks for your presentation, and welcome, Rajesh ji, Dinesh ji. I think you all a great team, and we've seen your growth and we've seen your execution. I think you rightly said that Cut and Style is known for giving high premium services, and you always maintain the pricing. And I think time has come where people start appreciating now that a very high quality service with the high hygiene and still delivering value pricing. And I think especially now people would start appreciating much more than they ever did. And we've seen your execution, especially in NCR. You are a great, reliable brand, very consistent. So we call it, we've got 5 things which are very important in franchising. One, obviously, is credibility. And I think because of your 20 years of experience, there is a tremendous amount of credibility. Business of salon is very predictable. So it's not that we like this business because we feel that this is one of the businesses which would always remain in demand. So things would come, go, but this would be always in demand. So it's a very predictable business. But I would like to hear from you, Aditya, more on how do you bring predictability, how many chairs, what rotation you do. So what is a little bit of what I call the science of running a salon. So that would be very helpful for our audience to understand. Scalability also, I think there is a scalability from a business viewpoint. And I also know that a lot of people are already writing that they can start with maybe in one salon in their city, and then they can multiply if they want to open up more salons. Again, the 4th point is also adaptability. Adaptability is also, very important because of the business model itself can be taken to any part of the country, and you probably have similar kind of experiences. So I would like you to touch upon, Aditya, a little bit on what is a little science of running a salon. That's one question. The second question, which I always touch upon, is that you are always would be in a conversion market, which means that if you open up in any neighborhood, somebody is using something somewhere. What is the Cut and Style principle and how you shift people? Like in my neighborhood, Cut and Style opened up about, I think, last year. And I saw a lot of people shifting from wherever they were using. What is your principle, how you shift people, whatever they're using, whenever you enter a particular neighborhood? So that's the second point of question. And third, how does the technology now going to play? And how would you be ready post this COVID, both from a technology, hyper local, and also from what I call a little bit of a safety and standards. What is the change you're bringing? So 3 questions I have. First question is what is the science of running a salon, and how do you bring sustainability to the business model or predictability to the business model? The second part would be what is your strategy on shift customers, which means how do you shift customers? And third, what is your post-COVID strategy? So over to you, Aditya.
I think if you talk about the science behind the salon, it's what I feel it's the need of the hour, and it's a necessity and also a utility as well. So in terms of running of the salon, what we focus on is providing the best of the services at the best possible uh, prices in the market. We don't compromise on quality at all. This is something that we take care of. And if I think we cater to someone, we proudly say that we cater to the masses, and that accounts to almost 85% of the Indian population. So if you talk about in terms of running a salon and what we are targeting at, I think the chunk of the target audience that we have, I think that's huge. And all you gotta do is be there out, speak up for your brand out there, your services, your the quality of your services, the price bracket that you're playing in, and how well do you market yourself out there. That's one thing that we focus on. In terms of what we say, that how we stand out from others, or somewhere else, and what's going to be the post COVID strategy, I think we it's going to be more of a necessity now, and the luxury sector, which I feel is going to go down post this pandemic. And at the same time, people will pay a lot more attention on safety and hygiene. So I think we lie at a very, very sweet spot out there. Our target audience, as we are hitting, a low economy. I think our target audience is increasing, multifolds every month. So this is something that's our, plus point. And uh, if you out there provide the best services, maintain your standards, maintain your hygiene, and you're marketing yourself well, I think there's no looking back from there then. In terms of the strategy post COVID, I think we've taken all the security safety measures, hygiene measures that are being approved by the government. And also in terms of digitalization, I think we are working on that. And we serve only on appointment basis. We have an appointment structure that's we've built up. And we are marketing ourselves well out there to the customers. We are touching base with them every day. So this is something that the relationship that we are building up with our customers, that we are working on, it's going to be something that's going to be beneficial post the COVID. And which I feel in the past few years also we've made a relationship. And that's something that's going to be turning factor for all of us in the industry. And if you are just taking care of all the necessities of what if I take care of myself as a layman, and I'm providing the customer what I would want as a consumer as well. So that's the ideology that we work on. And if we out there provide that, I think there's nothing that comes our way.
Sure. So just to clarify to a lot of audience, what is the ideal size, and how many chairs you advise, and how much beauty rooms you would have in a particular salon, and what is the rotation per chair on a daily basis? So a stylist would do how many haircuts in a day, or hair jobs in a day? What is the rotation cycles, and also added to that, what is your cost structures, which means your occupancy cost should ideally be what percentage, or HR should be what percentage, so people can understand how the little bit of a science of salon business.
Okay, so what we target at a size structure of a salon that I mentioned earlier also, it's somewhere we target at 1,000 square feet area, 1,000 square feet super area. The carpet area is what we look at. So that's with 2 to 3 beauty cabins depending upon the catchment also. 6 style stations, hair stations is what are ideal. Then a makeup cum spa room and a storeroom and a staff room for the staff. So that's the ideal setup of a store with 2 backwashes and 2 pedicure stations, which in 1,000 square feet area, I think that's been taken care of very easily. In terms of the occupancy, I think if you talk about the rotation, we usually target. If I talk about the business that we're getting in, as of now, I think 40% of 40 to 45% of the business that comes in is from hair. So I think that your style stations play a very major and an impactful role in terms of the rotation also, and the business that comes in. So if you want to move further, I think 6 to 8 stations is something that's feasible and that's ideal.
Sure. So, and now, because I think a large part of your cost would go into expensive real estate, while the real estate would come down because we feel that post this COVID, a lot of great locations would be available. So I think it will bring the pressure down, because I've seen most of the salon businesses who have only one critical cost, which is occupancy cost. And if that sometimes relaxes, which we expect that the rentals would come down to anything which is a 15 to 20% minimum, and if it's not more. So I think it will obviously, in a good side, improve a lot of profitability because you don't have a price pressure. You already have value offering, and with your occupancy cost coming down, I think there would be great chances that your profitability as a business model would increase. And that's what we at Franchise India are also encouraging people to get into salon business now, because I think this is the perfect time. These businesses have demand which is absolutely stable, rather it go up. Second, the whole economics is now working in their favor because they would get much cheaper location. The only area which I feel salon industry has to work is a little bit of what I call business intelligence, in terms of bringing little bit what I call where is the demand, how much people are consuming, what they consume, what times they consume, and so on and so forth. Because in these times, I think people would need to have that kind of, so every business would need a business intelligence. And so yeah, you can be, because I see salon businesses are very, very busy on weekends, and they're not so busy on weekdays. And if you have that business intelligence, you can quickly go to a lot of people and say, I have some appointments available, and we are running this appointment at this price or structure. So you can drive a lot of, and you can proportion out your best efficiencies out of your 7 day of productivity. Because otherwise, every time I would see the salon businesses get extremely productive on the weekends, and they're not so productive on the weekdays. If business intelligence can come. And second thing which I think salon industry would need is there is out of everything else will remain standard, but a lot of priorities would change on hygiene and other issues. So I think perfect, so to say, giving people a little bit comfort, which I think credible brands or chains brands would be able to give over these independent mom and pop salon operators. So I see that also as a great advantage for a brand like yours, which has established structures, you have systems, you have processes. You will be able to handle things much better, and your talent is also much trained than normal salons. So I would say this is a great time for people to, a lot of business would shift from these mom and pop, so to say, operators to a chain store operator. So these are all good influences which would impact your business. Now I'd like to invite Sonia to take up some questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditya, for the presentation that you gave. I think we are in the times where everybody is talking about, I think the first thing people wanted to open was alcohol, and the second industry which people are desperately waiting is the beauty industry. And what I've been reading and have been seeing all these years, beauty as an industry has been very resilient in the past. No matter what has happened, people have come back, they've used the services. And also by definition, it is more intertwined, and it is just going beyond the physical appearance to more of our well-being. And if you look at the past few months, I've been reading a little bit on what people in the industry are also talking about. I also heard Javed Habib, when the lockdown had just started, he said, slow down or no slow down, or a lockdown, no lockdown, people will always need a haircut. That is a need which is inherent, and this industry will always maintain its margins. So having said that, while there's a latent need in these times, I've been reading almost everybody's cutting their hair at home, but there's latent need. The moment the lockdowns are lifted, we'll see people coming in. I have two questions. I think part of that was covered by Gaurav, but still I'll go a little deeper on that. I'm sure a lot of people would like to understand. And Rajesh, Dinesh, if you want to jump in and maybe answer, more than welcome. What we are seeing is, we talked about, and I read today also in the newspaper, Gurgaon has opened up. I'm sure Cut and Style has a lot of locations in Gurgaon has opened up. Now salons are expected to make a lot of investment in hygiene, sanitization, the PPE kits, tunnels, and all those. I think the local authorities have given new guidelines on. And also number of staffs that need to come, capacity of the salons. If you run on certain throughput or capacity, that capacity would come down. And also the number of services which a salon can provide, because and salon is a place where social distancing is kind of compromised. So even the kind of services that you would provide, you might have to limit, if not for a longer period, but I foresee for a limited period, at least for the next few months. So what I wanted to understand, if you can explain the overall operating cost structure, which we even talked about, how much of that impact on that structure and margin would so for example, if we had a net margin of say 15% in a salon, with this cost adding, what kind of margins you see, going, and are these cost structures taken care or loaded on the customer who's coming in? Will he be loaded an extra cost and say, now the cost of services was this, it becomes X, or for the initial time, it will be absorbed by the salons? Is that what you've thought of as we start the salons in Delhi NCR and many more locations where the lockdown has been lifted?
I think as Gaurav sir rightly said, with the real estate also coming down, there are a lot of fixed costs that were involved have come down. There have been relaxations in terms of that. But at the same time, as you rightly said, that there were a lot of, what Javed also said, that, people would want to cut their hair. And I'm sure there would be some compromise in terms of, some beauty services there where there is a physical touch involved. But in terms of basics, I think, past these 2.5 months, there's a lot of volume that has accumulated, and they would want to revisit the salons again. I think if you talk about, the Google keyword search in the past, 2 months, I think how to cut your hair has, shot up multifold, and people are wanting to get back there. As, I think I rightly said before also, that if you as we are taking all this security measures, of course there's a cost involved in that. At the same time, some fixed costs are also reduced. So I think the margin somewhere down the line would reduce a little bit in the present scenario, but I think eventually when people would be okay with it, when they have trust in the brand and their hairdresser of the proper hygiene and the sanitization methods that we are following, I think that that hesitation would also go eventually, that also fade away, and the world has to run at the end of the day. So everyone would want to get back there. And in terms of the profit margin, if you talk about what we were discussing before, this, I think there will be we've started taking people strictly on appointments, and the cost that's involved to for all the sanitizations and the safety measures, that's been partially borne by the customers also, and by the the brand owners also. I think we've supported all our franchise partners with that. We've prepared everything in terms of the sanitization, and we're charging a COVID safety security amount, which people to our surprise, are they're okay with it. At the end of the day, it's we have to tackle this entire situation together. So they are okay with we charge a nominal 30-35 rupees as per the service for the disposable sheets, for the disposable towels, and the mask and everything that we are providing as the customer walks in. So I think that's a plus point. We've opened up in Gurgaon recently, with Gurgaon in the orange zone, and a price bracket that's given, and strictly on appointments. Still, we've opened up quite a few salons, and we've been booked the entire day with all the services. And to our surprise, only facials were the one thing that we were talking about that's going to take a step back. But all the other services, they were, back to normal. People would want to get haircuts. People would want to get themselves waxed. People would want to get, pedicures done. There were multiple head massages out there. And in terms of threadings, there was a, the whole process of a threading
Right,
involved, the thread
correct.
being in your mouth. So I think we tackled that pretty well, and there's a new technique that we focus on now. So the thread goes around your neck, and there's no touch, and that's not involved in your mouth anymore. So I think these are the factors and things that we're taking care of, which eventually helps us to regain the trust back from the customer, and be back with uh, the processes that we're following.
I think that's very helpful, and also, we're getting early feelers of the trends which are likely consumers will see in the coming months. So, any crisis and times like these always have a silver lining, and especially for organized players like you. You mentioned about trust. So there's a big element of trust, and safety is a paramount for consumers today. And if you see the market as a whole, there are close to about 7 million odd salons in the country. And I was just hearing what is happening in the food also. A lot of people who were consuming services and deliveries were not from these dark kitchens which are unknown, rather from players which were credible. They were known companies, and most of the market share of deliveries in these times came from the organized set of players. So I feel there would also be a similar trend, because this industry is highly unorganized, with almost, I think, 25% being organized and the rest being organized. So I feel there would be a big departure of this to the organized brands like yours. And while trust has always been very important to consumers, in these times, I feel there's a desire to patronize trusted brand like yours, which increases. And I wanted to understand, now that you're increasing, and I see a lot of your presence in tier 2 also. We also have somebody asking a question on your preference of rollout that you want to get into. Do you see a strategy of also converting some of the existing, these unorganized players, and converting them to your stores? That will help you, one, in expansion, which will be quick. Second, you have good locations, maybe access to a subscriber base, which they already have, and you bring in the best elements of maybe your brand equity, the systems and processes that you can impart to these unorganized players by converting them into your brand. So do you have a strategy on that? Are you contemplating converting some of these? How do you look, leveraging this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. If you talk about, as you're talking about the trust, I think it's not just a hairdresser or or a beautician. I think the major chunk of the trust comes in from the brand, because there's someone who's monitoring that. There's someone who's giving guidelines out there. There's a whole entire team who's taking care of all the processes that are being followed. So as Gaurav sir also rightly said, the moms and pups of the industry, I think that's going to be there'll be a major shift from them, from their customer to a brand who's credible, and who's out there in the market, as well as touching a very sensitive price point also. So I think what you are talking about in terms of converting the unorganized sectors into organized, of course, that's something that we always look at. And most of the things, I think there's a small difference only. There's a small line that differentiates a brand salon, a brand chain salon, from a standalone salon. And if you take care of all those sanitization methods, and all the processes, all the SOPs that the company follows, I think we would be taking care of all these things, and we might be exploring some opportunities out there also.
Very relevant, Aditya. Because I asked this question, I have one of our listeners on the webinar. He wants to know if you're already running a franchisee of a different brand. I'm assuming he's not explained that. I'm assuming he's running something in the salon space. Will it be okay for you to award also him a franchisee of your brand, or you don't accept people from the competition?
Sorry, can you come again, please? I couldn't get you.
We have an investor. He wants to know if I'm running a franchisee of another brand. He's not mentioned which brand he's running. I'm assuming that he's running in the same industry, or maybe he's running a salon. Would a brand like you offer him a franchisee if he's running a competition or maybe unorganized? I don't know what he means, but will you be open to awarding a franchisee of Cut and Style to somebody already running salon?
See, if someone who's running a standalone salon would want to partner themselves with a brand, of course, that's somewhere what we look at. If you realize, when you are in the system, you realize, there's a need. Once you get to reach a level where you think that, there's a differentiator between a brand salon and a standalone salon. And there's when the need of the hour, that's where the expertise, all these 20 years and the, expertise of the brand comes in. I think a lot of people had a lot of salons and they wanted to take up the franchise later, like once they were into it. So we've had a couple of conversions out there also, and this is what we look at, because you realize the difference once you're into it. Once you deep dive into it, that's when you realize, okay, there's a way out, and a brand can help us, taking us ahead, or taking it in a better way out there.
In fact, if I come in, Sunny, we have supported few salons, standalone salons earlier also, wherein we were quite successful in turning around the business for them. And as of now, I think it is more to do about consolidation also.
Right.
In this world, not today's world, and so we are open to that. And like Aditya was saying, that there's a complete backend support which we give to the franchises and to somebody who takes up up our brand name. So we're quite open to it. And like Gaurav was saying, that the trust factor for the brand as of now in today's condition is quite high. People are more comfortable, and we are very, very sure and to maintain that. Like for example, during the lockdown, we did a complete training for about 2,000 staff, wherein we were making sure that before they actually go on the floor, we are able to train them and make them understand what is the importance of the hygiene and sanitation in today's world. And so we were quite successful in that. And like you were saying, that we have opened in Gurgaon as of now, and there has been quite a positive response from the clients. We are in constant touch with these guys, how to take care of the operation, because it's a different world today. And so we were quite successful in maintaining the hygiene factor, and the customers are quite comfortable. That fear factor initially, I think, in everybody's mind is there. But after the interacting with a lot of customers ourselves, we found that, after visiting, the mindset changes, and people are kind of calling their family and friends to take up our services. The service segment, the kind of services, what they're using as of now might be basic services, just to understand and feel the quality of hygiene and sanitation maintained at the salons. But I strongly feel that in a week's 10 days, the mindset of the people, of the customers, is going to change.
I agree, Rajesh. In fact, the confidence and winning back the confidence of these consumer is something which is very important, and we see that coming as people start getting out of their fear zones.
Right.
So I'll take four
idea. So like people are talking about this personal protection equipment, you can also create a personal beauty equipment, right? Give them a kit, they can buy that kit and bring their own kit and their own scissors, their own structure. So anybody can own that. So you don't have to share. You are never in complex, because you bring your own stuff and you just choose the services at the salon, because you cannot. So I was thinking that if somebody really does it, I mean, you buy for yourself or you buy for your family and just use those equipment, and but bring that to a salon, and then they would use those services and work with you and give it to you back. So people have doubt on just a little bit of an equipment, how it is sanitized and how it has been done and so on and so forth. For some period, I think it can be a good idea or any kind of a structure which can give 100% satisfaction for somebody to really see that all the services they're consuming are well protected in sanitation. And I think it's also for a short period. I think it's only for maybe 2-3 months. By the time I think we are over with this virus situation, and then suddenly I think the demand would spike up and go even higher. Yes, Sona?
I'll take some more questions from these audience who've been, I see a trail of questions here. So considering Aditya, because these times are difficult, people are making very calculative decisions of where they want to put their money, and maybe a little bit hesitant, if not completely, put that on a cold ice, they want to delay the decision making. So somebody wants to understand, do you have an installment option, as there's a huge investment, which goes in the initial capital interiors, and also the franchise fees put together. Is there something as an incentive that you want to give to people who want to take a decision now of opting for a franchisee?
Also adding on that, because same question, but we should look at strongly bringing a financing option, because a lot of schemes now going to be available in the market.
Correct, yes.
Stimulus government is giving, and I personally feel that rather than giving people money to safeguard their businesses which are failing, it's always good to give people money to start a new business so they create new employment. I think that should be encouraged, and government would like to encourage that. And a lot of entrepreneurs or people who have lost their jobs or have some change in their current business model would like to opt into a business like salon, because it's still a cash business. You still know people would need to. And this is the only business I call which grows half an inch every month. There's nothing else, so it has to grow. So this business has always going to have a demand, and so it's a good business. And if you bring in some finance options at this stage or you have already, then you can share with the audience.
No, so this situation is something that all of us out there in the world are facing for the first time, and we've never tackled a situation like this. But definitely, we've never had this kind of a financing model or an installment model. But we can definitely work on something going further in terms of installments or in terms of part payments or something. That's something that it's we might just benefit to everyone, and we can take care of that. So that's a good thing that we'll take care of it. We can work something out around that.
I'll take another question. Somebody wants to understand, what kind of marketing support you would give for a particular location where the franchisee opens his outlet in.
Okay, so in terms of the marketing support, what the brand provides in, I think the designing, we have a digital marketing team who takes care of all pool of designers and video editors who take care of their own branding of the store. In terms of a new franchise coming in, what the brand supports and what the brand provides, I think first 3 months are the most crucial months of a business, and a person who would want to get into who's starting up a new business would want to safeguard some money as a working capital also when he's investing 40 to 45 lakh rupees out there. As a support from the brand reimburses the first 3 months of the royalty that the person has to pay in terms of the marketing support back to the investor who's coming in. So because we feel that marketing is something that, and a person who's spent money, I think marketing is the first thing where the person cuts down his cost. This is the entire psyche. I think they would never want to cut down anything, but any marketing thing or anything, because you can't justify it or you can't just measure it at one go. So this is something that people tend to cut down on, and we as I initially said that we support as much as we can. So the first 3 months of the royalty that we've received, the entire 25,000 rupees for the consecutive 3 months, so that sums up to around 75,000 rupees, is something that we reimburse in terms of marketing only. We don't reimburse that in cash. We don't reimburse that in terms of the stock or the cosmetics that they're buying from us, but it's in terms of marketing. And we have a leverage of the person deciding it can be print, it can be digital, it can be hoardings, it can be anything that that the catchment requires out there. So that's one thing that in terms of marketing support that the brand provides as the investor comes in the first 3 months.
Okay, and what is the likely payback period and also maybe an operational break even? The ROI would take maybe longer time, but a center should ideally start breaking even on the operating expense. So what is that month that you see your expenses meeting, your revenues meeting the expenses?
See what, as I said, the first 3 months are crucial, and we've generally seen great responses from second to third month. People have started breaking even in the first month also, and depending. So that's a very subjective thing. That depends a lot on the location also, and how the mindset of the people. It might be something in Gurgaon where there's a lot of competition, and it might take time to pick up. But at the same time, if there's a new a standalone in a new tier 2 city where there was no brand out there and that was the need of the hour. So I think that depends a lot, but close to 2 to 4 months is something that people break even in. That's why we say we keep a working capital also, just to for the first 2 to 3 months, and we provide the support as well. So if if we're marketing well, and the store is it's operational and we're marketing it well, so I think the second month or the third month is something that we break even in.
Great. I have another question on the product side. Every salon somebody wants to understand, and even for me, because I know you also have a lot of your private label which you've introduced at your salons. So we'd like to know what kind of branded products are being used and what kind of discounts are offered to the franchisee on these products, because they need to have an understanding of the discount they get on the market on these products versus buying these from you.
Okay, so we have private labeling in terms of we have a range of facials by the name of Oregon, and we have our own pedicures also. At the same time, we cater to the best brands also. So it's not that it's just purely homegrown private labels that we provide. I think in terms of the exclusive known brands, we have all the brands at the best of the discounts. So I think that's something, the authenticity and the discounts that we provide from the brand's side is something which can be compromised if it's being sourced from outside. And that's one thing that we take care of, and we, don't allow that products are being sourced from outside vendors. So it's something that's sourced by us. I think we take care of all the quality. There's a quality check that's been done for all the private labels that we have. And in terms of all the known brands out there, be it L'Oreal or Dermalogic, anything. So we have everything here at the best prices.
Okay, we were receiving a lot of responses which are coming from a lot of tier 2 also. There's somebody from Odisha, he says even salons like Green Trends and Lakme Salon, they've just launched. And most of the people are showing interest in the local salons here. So how can I attract more customers if I get a branded salon? One. Second, just to add on to that, where do you see your own rollout focus at this stage? Because I have some response which are also from some locations where people want to open. And the last few years have also seen a lot of business coming from tier 2 and 3 also, which is also contributing big in the overall, I would say, size of the industry. So where do you see your big market rollout or penetration happening? And what do you advise to these investors? What kind of activities or initiatives they should take maybe to attract more customers and have a better visibility and positioning and brand equity in their markets?
I think in terms of, tier 2, tier 3 cities, we've past 1 year, I think these cities have, massively grown in terms of numbers. And now if we look at the post-COVID scenario, I think these are going to be the most booming markets in terms of, all the businesses out there, because, and for someone like a branded, outlet coming in, I think people are much more aware about the safety and the precautions, which I feel was a bit unorganized in tier 2, tier 3 as of now. So I think for an organized sector to enter tier 2 or 3 cities, I think this is the right time to capture on those markets. And if you market yourself well, and you are showcasing your brand in terms of be it print or digital, and people know about you, there's a lot of word of mouth that also spreads in this industry. So I think if you are providing, if you, even one person who walks in and you're satisfying one customer, I think that person will definitely bring back five back along. So for someone who's out there, I would suggest them to just focus on your the quality of service that you provide. I think that's the core of if I think that's the core if you want to succeed. Even if you market yourself well and then at the end of the day your product is not good, so that's something that's going to be negative or bad marketing out there. So at the same time you have to voice out yourself well, and the quality of service should never go down. I think post COVID or in the current scenario it has to increase, it has to double up now, and that's what our entire focus is on right now.
Sure. Thanks, Adi. Very quickly, we'd like to understand, you run across different cities and different formats. What kind of sales your outlets have been doing? You've been running these for decades and 90 salons. What kind of a throughput would an ideal outlet give is one question. And the second is, what kind of spaces do we need? Are we looking at high street or are we looking at malls? Because I see most of the salons have been very much neighborhood centric. Neighborhoods have most of your presence. And considering these times and every day we're using, even after the lockdown has been lifted, 20% of organized retail will fall vacant. So you'll have a lot of space which becomes available. So will there be any support which you as a brand would offer to prospective or negotiate on their behalf, or you already negotiated or started speaking to the property owners already, which can be extended? So two questions I'll repeat. What kind of throughput an outlet gives, an average one? And the second is, any help on the locations you want to offer to your prospective franchisees?
Yeah, so as Gaurav sir also said, there's a lot of if you talk about the rentals coming down, and we've always focused on neighborhood markets as our target spaces, because there are two good things. Accessibility is much more there, and in terms of the intent to buy, I think the customer who's coming has a very strong intent when he's coming into a neighborhood salon, and it's as it's as important as buying groceries. So in terms of malls, I think now the rentals will come down, but I still feel that there's a lot of cost involved in terms of malls, also in terms of maintenance, and but at the same time the footfall is really high in malls. So it's gonna be very subjective to out there what's the dynamics of the location. But what we generally target at is a neighborhood market, or a something not a big mall, but somewhat a small unorganized malls would be something that are the target the places that we do.
Another question for you, Rajesh, an extension of this. What are the advisable rentals? This is the last question which I see which has come. What are the advisable rentals that you see people should look at per square feet for a 1,000 square feet average area?
I think if you talk about, like Aditya was saying, that it is quite subjective. And if you talk about, so what on average, if you talk about an average, it's going to be about 100 rupees, is what we are paying as of now. That's going to be if you talk about a metro. The rentals in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the advantage is that's lower as of now. And I feel that what Aditya was saying, that is huge opportunity there. And we have, open fee outlets in tier 2 cities, and they're doing pretty well. So if you talk about the rentals post this situation, it should go down. But on an average, what we are targeting in metros is about 100 rupees. And in tier 2 city, it depends. It's quite subjective.
Great. I think that's very helpful for our viewers to understand, Rajesh. Is there any question that you want to pick up? I feel we have covered almost all the questions. And a lot of questions I see some element of repetition and overlapping. Any questions, Adi, Rajesh, Dinesh, if you think you would like to pick up from the chat box? Else, we can wind up with a final word from you, followed by Gaurav and
so I think there's like any kind of business, there's a lot of queries in terms of ROI and in terms of so I think it is like this space. If you talk about the beauty, it's one of the most interesting space, and rightly Gaurav said it increases half inch every month. Post COVID, I think that in this scenario, it is quite an interesting space for a business also. There might be a fear factor initially, but I think it's go down, and there's going to be a huge opportunity there. And as a brand, we are there for support till the end, right? And it's like business, any kind of business, a continuous process. The support is required on a regular basis, and we strongly feel that our job is to give full support to the franchisees, and the complete backend support has to be given to them. So we are quite effective in that as a brand.
Sure, I think you're a great brand and you have been very consistent for so many years, and your work and your commitment to the business and the industry speaks for itself. And I don't see many brands which have that kind of credibility available. I think, as I said earlier, I personally have a big belief that businesses like Salon are strong businesses, and especially in the times where there is a lot of uncertainty around, people would go and invest into businesses which are very predictable, are cash businesses, are relatively easy to manage, and also partner with companies which bring in what I call sort of warmth and competence. Warmth comes from a lot of localization of the business, which you do through franchising, and competence comes from your years and years of experience. As far as a post-COVID scenario, and we are doing a lot of work at Franchise India, what we call the change management. And the change management is actually done at 3 levels. One is at the product side, which I don't think you need to. Your products people can have some products over demand now, and then later they would come down to their normals, and there is no change required. Processes is a second. I think processes need a lot of changes, and technology should adapt, and technology should give people take a particular time appointment. They know what services they're doing, and we are able to, as I said, bring some more science in the business. And third, which I think is the biggest change would come, at least in the salon industry, which is called priorities of customer. Customer would like to now move into environments which are secure and effective, rather than going to environments where you have, I know I'm not about you, but a lot of salons I know in Delhi, which has these chandeliers available in the entire thing. So they were spending unwanted money on capex, which is not required anymore. I think at this time, last 60 days has taught us how valuable this money is all about. So people would rather not appreciate. They would like to go to environments like Japan. It is a minimalistic lifestyle. So Japanese salons are like very clean salons. They have very good hygiene. Everything is available, but they don't have fancy chandeliers. They don't have marble flooring. They don't have all that. And I think more and more people would see a lot of change. So it will be a good opportunity for an operator like you, which is anyway sensitive, to bring the capex down and bring more cleaner, more straightforward, communicate to the customer that we stand by high quality and we give you good value, which you come to pay. You're not coming here to pay for the marble flooring or the chandeliers that a lot of people have done. So I think all these players who out there in the market who started taking consumer on a wrong side and showcasing a little too much of what I call indulgence in the stores and so on and so forth, would have no meaning left, I personally feel. And this is a positive change. This is a positive change which we all would like to see in the business. So we have a Franchise India has a great belief on your brand. We great believe on founders. You great founders. You're great committed. You have put your time. And we would like to strongly advise our investors that this is a time where you need to take a call and partner with you. Final word from all of you, and then we can close. Sonia, your word.
Sure. I'll say once again, Rajesh, Dinesh, thank you for being here. Aditya, for patiently answering all the queries. I just adding on to what Gaurav just said, I think people have two big risks on, one is on the stock. Your business has no stock, so to say. That's relatively less. And the other is on the initial capital deployed by them. And these are depreciating, which one cannot do anything about. And you are right at that spot, I would say at a stage where you're not neither a luxury brand, neither a very value, just somewhere in the middle, a bridge between the two. And people will see a lot of value, both in terms of investing and consuming your services. And also the modern unisex beauty salons, are soon catching up, not only in metros, but tier 1 and tier 2, against the trend, which was only women-centric salons. We're seeing that trend moving across all markets. So I see the markets going up. And also with the trend of almost 15 to 20% new people or new consumers who come and start consuming the services every year. And I would say, again, this industry or category has been resilient, and never has been a time that this industry was affected. And we see still a latent need, and I'm sure once we open up, we'll see the business coming back. So we wish you all the best, and we are hopeful that this year and the years to come sees a big growth for Cut and Style. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Archana, final word from you.
Yeah. So we thank all the panelists, Gaurav sir, Sonia ma'am. We really thank from bottom of our heart, Rajesh ji, Dinesh ji, and Aditya for your session. For our friends and participants who participated in this webinar, we really appreciate your participation. Tomorrow, we are representing you another brand. That's there on your slide. It's Universe. Would love you to join for the same. Thank you so much. There is a link in your chat tool. You can log in through this link. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take good care of yourself. Thank you so much.